ለመማር ወደ ትምህርት ተቋም መሄድ ግድ አይደለም። ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
ራሳችሁን ከኮሮና ቫይረስ ወረርሽኝ እየጠበቃችሁ በቤታችሁ ወይም በተመቻችሁ ቦታ በኢንተርኔት አማካኝነት በኦንላይን ትምህርታችሁን መከታተል ትችላላችሁ።
ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና ከእንግሊዙ ኢንስቲትዩት ኦፍ ኮመርሻል ማኔጅመንት ICM ጋር በመተባበር የሚሰጡ ትምህርቶችን ተከታትላችሁ በ6 ወር ጊዜ በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ተቀባይነት ያለውን የስልጠና ማስረጃ ባለቤት መሆን ይቻላል።
ልምድ ባላቸው መምህራን እየተማራችሁ ጥያቄና መልስ የክፍል ስራዎች ፈተና መፈተን ክፍል ውስጥ እንዳላችሁት አይነት በኦንላይን ባላችሁበት ቦታ ከናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ
Okay, sorry for being late due to internet connection problem. So today we'll start chapter 2 about data science. So also we will see some revision from previous class, actually from chapter 1. So in the previous class or on chapter 1 we have discussed about what mean by emerging technology or introduction about emerging technology. Also we have discussed about industrial revolution, different industrial revolution, and also different invention from different industrial revolutions. Also we have discussed about what mean by a role of data on different disciplines and so on. Okay, and also have discussed about enabling device and networking devices, or in general what mean by programmable device. And also in the previous class we have discussed about human machine interaction, or HMI. Okay, so from previous class when we define emerging technology, emerging technology simply refers a new technology or a technology that is created previously. Then we need to add some new features. Okay, so we define emerging technology as simply a new technology or different technologies created previously which affect human lives. Okay. And also have discussed about different industrial revolutions like industrial revolution 1, 2, 3, and 4. So each industrial revolution have its own new feature. For example, when we see first industrial revolution, which changes source of energy from different to steam energy or steam energies and so on. Okay. So also have discussed about the role of data. Actually nowadays in the digital era, data is everything, so it affects each and every tasks actually, or field of studies. When we see computer science, accounting, or different field of study, we need what? We need a data. Actually when we define data, data means a raw fact or a detail about some object. Some object, actually object can be people, can be things, can be object, and so on. Okay, so data is everything, so which affects us, or different field of study actually depends on data. Okay, data, so we need to extract this data into relevant form, we call it information. So also we have discussed about the enabling device or simply programmable device. What I mean by programmable device? Actually computer is a programmable device. Okay, as we discussed before or in the previous class, computer is electronic device which have what? Two major parts: computer software and computer hardware. Okay, so each and every computer needs what? A program or a set of instruction which instructs different computer hardware parts, input devices, output devices, and so on. Okay, so computer is a programmable device. Like that, there are also different types of programmable devices like mobile phone or different electronic devices. It may be general purpose or a special purpose devices, okay? So programmable device means a device or a hardware which needs what? Set of instruction. We call it program, okay? So we have discussed different types of programmable device in the previous class. Also, we have seen human to machine interaction. As we know, computer or is electronic device which understand what type of language? Machine language. Yes, machine language is a language which have only two different symbols. That means 0 and 1. 0 and 1. What about human being? Human being understand what? Human language like English, Amharic, and so on. So, in order to interact, in order to create interaction between human and the machine, we need what? We need, for example, a translator which translate machine language into human language and human language into machine language. So we need this concept in computer, for example, to insert data or to feed data or input data into a computer. We need what? Different computer hardware parts like keyboard, like mouse, like digital camera, and so on. Also, in order to produce output or in order to get output from computer, we need what? Different hardware parts like display unit and so on. And so on. So we need this concept to create interaction between computer and human being, because these two objects understand different types of language. So we need this interaction. Actually, different translations and, for example, human language processing and so on. So for today, actually, objective of today's class is after completing this chapter, the student will be able to describe what we mean by data science and its role of data in different actually discipline, okay, in different discipline. So in this class, we will discuss about what mean by data science and also role of data science in different perspective. Also, we will differentiate what mean by data and information. Actually, we'll differentiate or we will define what mean by data and what mean by information, how to get information from data, and so on. Also, we will describe data processing life cycle. Actually, data processing means extracting relevant information from data. So we will see different life cycles. Actually, there are three basic steps in order to get information from input data. The first one is inserting input into a computer, then processing or converting input data into information. After that, producing output. So we have input, processing, and output. Okay, so we will see different life cycles. Also, we will understand different data types. What I mean by data type? Actually, data type in computer science means memory location. Memory location in order to store different types of data like number, text, character, and so on. So we will see what I mean by data type in different perspective. And also we will see, we will describe the data value chain in emerging technology era or in order to process big data. So in this chapter also we will discuss what I mean by big data. So we will see data value chain and also understand the basics of big data. What I mean by big data? So also why we need big data. Also how to process big data or how to extract the information from big data. So we will see different informations or related with this big data. Also, lastly, we will see some open source softwares which are relevant to process big data. Actually, big data means data. It is not possible to process by using a simple personal computer or simple traditional data processing softwares like Excel or SQL database or Access database. Okay, so we need what? We need different platform in order to process or in order to manage this big data. So in this chapter, actually, we will see some softwares. We call it Adobe ecosystem, or Adobe is a platform to process big data. Okay, so in this chapter, we will discuss this concept. So what are the main role of data science in different disciplines? For example, let us assume in e-commerce. E-commerce, actually, e-commerce means electronic commerce. Okay, that means performing different commerce activities using internet. For example, in order to buy different things using internet, we call it, for example, e-commerce. Actually, have different concepts. For example, we can consider Amazon.com. I think you know about Amazon. Yes, Amazon is the biggest market in the world. So Amazon is what? Amazon is a platform which supports e-commerce or electronic commerce. Also, we can consider Alibaba. Okay, Alibaba is also e-commerce platform. Also, there are different e-commerce platforms which are found in Ethiopia. Okay, like Mercato.com and so on and so on. So, in order to perform this e-commerce, we need what? We need data science. For example, data science is relevant for e-commerce. For example, in order to perform payment, okay, online payment. Also, in order to select items from list, okay. Also, in order to sort items on a site or items on a e-commerce platform. So we need this data science concept in what purpose? E-commerce purpose, okay, electronic commerce. And also, for example, let us assume a store management system or electronic store management system. Also, in this area, we need what concept? Data science concept. For example, in order to for item selection, for searching items, and so on. Okay, so also this data science is relevant for academic discipline. For example, let us assume for computer science academic discipline, we need data science for programming, for data mining, and for different purpose. So each and every field of study or discipline depends on what? Data science. Okay, data science. For example, let us assume electronic-based voting. Let us assume, for example, education, and so on. All are what? Nowadays depends on this data science. So what mean by data science? Actually, in this chapter, we will discuss about what is the main difference between data and information, different data type, and from different perspective, data value chain, and basic concepts of big data. Okay, so what are the main difference between data and information? What mean by data? When we consider a data is what? Data is a raw fact or detail about object. A raw fact which can describe an object. For example, let us assume a student object. Okay, a student may have what? Different raw facts like name, gender, birth of date, department, grade related with different courses, and so on. Okay, all these raw facts is called data. So data by itself is simply a raw fact, but it is not what? It is not meaningful. We need what? We need a data processing method in order to get information from data. So when we see computer perspective, data is input for a computer, input in different format actually. It may be text, it may be video, it may be audio, and so on. So data representation of a fact or raw fact, concepts or instructions in a formalized manner. Okay, When we see, for example, the student may have different details like name, gender information, and so on, and so on. Also, it should be suitable for communication, interpretation, or processing by human as well as electronic machine. So this data is unprocessed fact and figure. So when we consider data is raw fact or detail about object. By itself, it is not meaningful. And also we need what? Different data processing. Different data processing. So what about information? Information is a processed data. Actually, we need information to support the decision-making process. In order to decide different decision, we need what? We need information which support decisions. Okay, decisions. So information means processed data. When we see from a computer perspective, information is output of a computer. Actually, in different format. It may be audio, video, or text, number, and so on. So by itself, it is what? It is meaningful. Data is not meaningful, but when we see this information is meaningful factors which support decision making. So the main purpose of information is support decision making process. So information is interpreted data. We can say that information is interpreted data or processed data. Created from what? Organized, structured, and processed data in particular context. So we can differentiate what mean by data and what mean by information. So, for example, let us assume we need to get information like number of female in a particular class, number of female. So such type of information can be extracted from the student data, because the student data also contain what? Detail about what? Gender information. It may be female or male. Okay, so by counting only female student, we can get a number of female students in this class. So we can we may support different decisions. Okay, So we can extract different relevant information from input data. So to get this information, we need a concept called data processing. Okay, data processing. What do you mean by data processing? Data processing means extracting only what? Relevant information, not information. Okay, because some information may be relevant for some perspective, but it may not as useful for different perspective. Okay, so when we discuss about this data processing means extracting only relevant information from input data, or it is simply restructuring or reordering of data by people or machine to increase their usefulness and add value for a particular purpose. Okay, a particular purpose. For example, when we see a single data, let us assume we have a student data which have different details like name, like gender, birth of date, grade information, for example, for different course, and so on. So different department of this college may need different information from similar data. For example, when we see finance office, it may need what? Financial information like payment information. Okay, payment information of a student. What about instructor? It may be grade related information from student data. That means we can extract different information from a single data. So we can use this data processing. Actually, there are two types of data processing methods. The first one is manual data processing method. Okay, manual. That means extracting information from data using what? Using human brain. It uses pen and paper work. Actually, pen and paper. For example, counting female student from student data manually. That means it is paperwork. Okay. Actually, this manual data processing method have its own drawback, like accuracy problem due to human-made errors, and the speed problem, or it may be very slow when we compare with electronic-based data processing method and so on. Okay. So the first type of data processing is manual data processing, but also have its own advantage. For example, no need of any electronic device. Due to this, it is what? Electric power independent. Okay, we can work anywhere, any place without needing electric power. Okay. What about the second one? The second one is called computer-based data processing or electronic data processing. So when we see this one, it is simply processing data or converting data into information using the help of what? Electronic device like computer, calculator, and so on. So the main advantage of this computer-based data processing is simply it is the speed and accuracy. When we see accuracy, it is very accurate, almost 100% accurate. Otherwise, we need to consider input data as well as application software used. Okay. For example, garbage in, garbage out. For example, so we need to select appropriate and correct input in order to get accurate information. Okay. So there are two types of data processing: manual data processing and electronic-based data processing. So data processing concept is three main basic steps. The first one is input. Input means inserting data into or raw data into computer by different format. Actually, when we see computer hardware part, there are four major units. The first one is input unit. Okay, input unit. Input unit means a hardware part of a computer in order to insert data or feed data into computer. For example, let us assume we need to insert text data into a computer. We need what? Keyboard. Yes, keyboard is a hardware or input device to what? To insert text data. What about how to insert audio data into a computer? We need what? We need input device called what? Microphone or a speaker. It is microphone. Okay, microphone is an input device to insert audio data into a computer. Okay. And also to insert hard copy data, we need what? A scanner. A scanner is an input device to insert what type of data? Hard copy data. For example, hard copy paper to digital form. To convert this hard copy paper into digital form, we need input device. We call it a scanner. Okay. So input means inserting data or input data in different format into what? Into computer. So in order to insert the data into a computer, we need input device. The second one is processor. Processor is also the major part of computer hardware to process data or to convert input data into information, or we call it central processing unit. The third one is storage. Storage is a device or a hardware part of computer to store data permanently or temporarily. Okay. The fourth one, output unit. Output unit is also hardware part of a computer to display or to present output in different format to end user. For example, we can consider monitor. Also, we can consider a projector. Also, we can consider printer. Printer is actually a special hardware, hard copy output device. Okay. So, by using these four major parts of a computer, there are three basic steps to process or convert input into output. So the first one is input. That means feeding data into computer. The second one is processing. That means converting input data into information or output. And the last one is output. Output means it is simply presenting the result for the end user. Okay, so here we have three major steps. So what we mean by input? As we discussed, input means simply feeding data into a computer. So in this step, the input data is prepared in some convenient form for processing. Okay, that means the form will depend on data processing machine. For example, when we consider electronic computer, so we need to put input data in different storage media or in different storage, like hard disk or CD or flash disk and on different types of storage. Okay, so this input format is depending on a machine which can process data. Okay. The second step is processing. Processing means converting data into information or meaningful form of data. So in this step, the input data is changed to product data in more useful form. Okay. For example, interest can be calculated on deposit to a bank, or summary of a sales for a month. The month can be calculated from sales orders, okay, in each month. For example, we can consider also grading system. So we can calculate grade from student results. So processing means converting input data into meaningful form. Okay. The last one is output. So at this stage, the result of processing step is collected in different format. A particular form of the output data depends on use of data. Okay, it may be video, audio, or text. Okay, for example, output data may be payroll from employee. Okay, payroll from employee, or summary of, for example, grade, summary of student based on gender, and so on. So these are three basic steps. Okay. So the other concept for today's class is actually data type from different perspective, from computer programming perspective and from analytical perspective. Okay. So when we see data type in computer science, data type means actually memory location to store different types of data, because different types of data may need different size or different memory size. Okay, so to manage different types of data using computer, we need to discuss different types of data type. For example, integer or int is a data type in order to store whole number or integer numbers, mathematically actually known as integers. So to store integer data, we need a data type called int or integer. So in this data type, it is not possible storing character, text, or even real number. Okay. So integer is a data type in computer science to store integer data. The other one is Boolean or bools. Okay, Boolean data type is also a data type which can store only two values. It may be true or false, or it may be 0 or 1. Actually, in computer, 0 means false or electric off, and 1 means electric on. Okay, so Boolean data type is a type of data type which can store only two values, true or false. The other one is character or char. Character is also a data type to store what? A single character or a single letter. Okay, a single letter. For example, A, B, 1, 2, and so on, or even a special character, question mark, and so on. The other one is floating point number or float. Actually, floating number and integer is a data type to store what type of data? Number data. Number data, okay? Number data. For example, integer store integer data, whereas float stores what type of data? Floating or real number. Real number. That means fraction numbers, okay? For example, to store 2.5 on a computer, we need what type of data type? Float data type. What about to store number 1? We need what? Integer data type, okay? To store integer data, we need integer data type. To store float or real number, we need float data type. The last one is a string data type. String means a combination of character, one or more character.
በትምህርት ከፍ ብሎ መብረር ይቻላል። ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ከከፍተኛ ትምህርት አግባብነትና ጥራት ኤጀንሲ ሙሉ ዕውቅናን ባገኘንባቸው በማስተርስ ዲግሪ ኤምቢኤ በስትራቴጂክ ማኔጅመንት፣ ኤምቢኤ በባንኪንግ እና ፋይናንስ፣ ኤምቢኤ በቢዝነስ ሊደርሺፕ፣ ኤምቢኤ በሪስክና ኢንሹራንስ፣ ኤምኤስሲ በኢንተርናሽናል ትሬድ እና ኢኮኖሚክስ ዘርፎች በእውቀት ለመቅረጽ የበቁ ፕሮፌሰሮቻችን አረንጓዴ መብራታቸውን አብርተዋል። በነገራችን ላይ በኬንያ ሀገር ከሚገኙ ስመጥር ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች በሚመጡ ፕሮፌሰሮች የትኩረት መስክ ትምህርቶቹ መሰጠታቸው ልዩ ያደርገናል። በምርጥ የትምህርት ስርዓት የተገነባው ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ በመጀመሪያ ዲግሪ በአቪዬሽን ማኔጅመንት፣ በሆቴል ማኔጅመንት፣ በአካውንቲንግ እና ፋይናንስ፣ በማርኬቲንግ ማኔጅመንት አስተማማኝ ትምህርት ይገቢውና ራስዎንና ሀገሮን ይለውጡ። አድራሻ 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
We call character or car. A combination of what? A combination of two or more characters, we need a string data type. So these are common data types which are included in computer programming. What about the analytical perspective? Actually, when we see this data analytical perspective, there are three data types, three common data types. The first one is structured, the second one is semi-structured, and the last one unstructured data type. For example, structured mainly it is structured tabular data like SQL data or Excel data and so on. We call it structured data. Okay. When we see image files, videos, audios, we call it semi-structured data. And different, for example, XML data, JSON data, sensor data, we call it unstructured data. Okay. And also there is a special data type called metadata. Metadata means meaning of data or data about data. Data about data. Okay. So there are three basic data type when we see types of data type in data analytical perspective. Okay. Structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. So when we see this one, structured, for example, SQL data and Excel data, or when we see this semi-structured, for example, textual data, image files, video, audio, and so on. And this one is actually a special programming languages like XML, markup language, or JSON data, or sensor data, and so on. Okay. So when we see this structured data, structured is a predefined data model. So it is also simple to analyze. Okay. A structured data is confirmed to a tabular form within a relationship between the different row and columns. So when we see this structured data organized using column and row manner. Okay. For example, Excel files, SQL database files can be considered as a structured file. Okay. So each of these has a structured row and columns that can be stored on different storage. Okay. So this one is called a structured data. The second one is the semi-structured data. It is actually between structured and unstructured data. So is a form of structured data that does not conform with a formal structure of data model associated with, for example, relational databases or other tabular forms like Excel file or SQL file or Access file. Okay, so it is a form of structure for data, but it does not confirm with a formal structure. For example, it may contain different tags or texts or other markers to separate semantic. Actually, semantic means meaning of data. So it is integrated with different types of data type. Okay. So when we consider this semi-structured data, it contains tags or other markers to separate meaning, element, and enforce hierarchical records and fields within the data. Okay. It is also known as a self-describing structure because it has what? It has a meaning or a semantic or a tag. For example, we can consider JSON files or XML file. Actually, these are more technical words related with computer science or computer programming, okay, for developing, for example, different websites or mobile application and so on. So JSON file, XML file, and so on, we call it semi-structured files, okay. The last one is unstructured data. Unstructured data is information that either does not have a predefined data model or is not organized in a predefined manner. That means it is not organized. So unstructured information is typically text, okay, textual data. Actually, it may contain data such as date, number, facts, and so on. But it is text-heavy data, but it is not organized. So it is difficult, most of the time, this one is difficult to process or to get information from this unstructured data. So this results in regularity and ambiguity that makes it difficult to understand using traditional programs as compared to a structured database. So it is ambiguous, even it is difficult, okay, to understand due to unorganized behavior of this unstructured data. For example, common example of unstructured data includes, for example, audio data, video file, or non-SQL databases. Non-SQL database can be considered as unstructured data. Actually, this one is a special data type called metadata. Metadata can be considered as a data about data or meaning of a data or description of a data is called metadata, okay, metadata. So from a technical point of view, this is not a separate data structure, but it is what? It is integrated with different data, but to contain or to describe meaning. But it is one of the most important elements of big data analysis and big data solution, okay? For metadata can be considered as data about data. It provides additional information about a specific set of data, okay? So it is simply meaning of data or data about data or description of a given data is called metadata. For example, let us assume a photograph or image file or photograph file. For example, a metadata could describe when and where the photos were taken. That means date and place. So we need to integrate this information with what? Photograph. That means date and place of photograph were taken. So we say that this one is called meaning or metadata or description of a data. So metadata is a special type of data in data science. So the other concept for today's class is actually data value chain. What I mean by data value chain? So the data value chain is introduced to describe the information flow within a big data system as a series of steps needed to generate value and useful insight for data. Okay, it is simply series of steps in order to get information from big data. So the big data value chain identifies the following key high-level activities. Actually, when we see this data value chain, there are 5 major steps or activities. Okay, the first one is data acquisition or acquisition or gathering. The second one is data analysis or data analyzing. The third one is data creation. The fourth one is data storage to store permanently. And the last one is data usage or interpretation. Okay. So these 5 main parts have its own activities, major activities. For example, when we see the first step or data acquisition, it is the process of what? Gathering, filtering, and cleaning data before what? Before feeding to a computer or a computer storage. So data acquisition means gathering data, gathering raw facts about objects. Okay. So this one is also a challenge or difficult when we see big data. Okay. So data acquisition is one of the major big data challenges in terms of infrastructure requirement. Okay, so the first step for this data acquisition refers simply gathering and filtering and also cleaning of data before inputting into a computer system. The second one is data analysis. So data analysis is also involving exploring, transforming, and modeling. For example, converting data in different formats. For example, in different model or in different format. So when we see this one, analyzing means exploring, transforming, and modeling data with a goal of high-level relevant data, or synthesizing and extracting useful hidden information within high potential from a business point of view. Okay, so analyzing means converting raw fact or raw data into some organized form or some information. For example, related areas including data mining. Data mining means extracting information from data or mining data information from data, or we call it also business intelligence, machine learning, and so on. So this concept is mainly related with data analysis or second phase of data value chain. Okay. The third one is data creation. Data creation process can be categorized into different activities, such as, for example, content creation or selection or classification. Okay. Even transformation in different format, even validation and presentation. Okay. So when we see this stage or in this stage, there are different activities. Okay. For example, content creation, content selection, selecting appropriate data or only relevant data, and classification, classifying input data in different formats based on different criteria. Actually, for example, we can classify student data using gender or using department or in different or even in batch and so on. Okay, so these are activities performed in this stage or in data creation stage. So data creators or people who perform this task is called data annotator. Annotator actually holds the responsibility of ensuring that the data are and discoverable, accessible, reusable, and fit their purpose. Okay. So a person which can perform data creation is called data annotators. So it is on the specialization. The fourth one is actually data storage. We need to store data permanently actually by using different technologies. So it is a persistent and management of data in scalable way. So mostly we need to use this relational database management system, or RDBMS, have been actually the main and almost unique solution to storing data for nearly 40 years. Okay, this database management system like Access, like SQL, MySQL, Oracle, and so on. But this relational database management system have its own advantage and disadvantage. For example, it have acid property like atomic, consistency, isolation, and durability, but it is not applicable to manage big data, because it is not flexible, and also have a performance problem, and also have fault tolerance problems, and also it is not suitable for big data due to unscalable form. Okay, it is not scalable. So no SQL technologies have been designed with the scalability goal in mind, and presents a wide range solution based on alternative data models. Okay, so it is not suitable to manage big data. So we need a new technology or a new platform or to process such type of big data. Okay, but for a small data, we can apply this technology, relational database management system, or relational RDBMS, but it is not scalable. Due to this, it is not applicable to manage big data. Actually, when we discuss big data in the previous class, big data is large data. It is not possible it is not possible to store this big data using a single personal computer. Even it is not possible to process big data using traditional data processing softwares like Excel, SQL, and so on. So what about data usage? So it covers actually data-driven business activities that need access to data, analysis, and the tools needed to integrate data analysis within a business activity. Okay, so data usage in business decision making can enhance competitiveness through the reduction of cost, increased adding a value, or any other parameters. So in this data usage actually means interpreting output data. So it may reduce cost, it may increase efficiency, accuracy, and so on. Actually, this one is the last stage of data value chain. So what is big data? Big data is a term for collection of data set, or so large and complex. That means it is large as well as it is complex, that is become difficult to process using one database management tool like the traditional database management system or SQL, and so on. Okay, so big data means it is a very large and a complex data, and it is difficult to process this data using traditional data processing, and even a single personal computer. So what are the main characteristics of big data? Actually, big data is characterized by 3 V and more. The first one, by considering volume. When we see a volume of big data, it is very large amount of data set. It is very a large amount of data set. The second one is velocity. Data is for example, live streaming, for example, video chat and video discussion, even by considering Zoom application or teleconference, and so on, and so on. And the varieties, data come from different format, and from different source, and veracity can be considered trust and accuracy. These are the main properties related with big data. Okay, volume, velocity, and variety is the main characteristics of big data. So, how to manage big data? Actually, big data is difficult to manage or to process because it is not possible to process such type of data using what? Using traditional data management software or using a single computer. So we need to discuss about what? Clustering computer or clustered computer. Clustered computer means classifying a computer or big data for different computer parts, or for different computer, or for different separate computers. So because of these qualities of big data, individual computers are inadequate for handling that data at most stage. So to better address the high storage need, computation needs for a big data, computer cluster are a better fit. Computer cluster means giving different tasks or different data for different computer. For example, let us assume we have 4 computers, so we need to integrate these 4 computers and assign different tasks. Okay. So clustering means classifying a computer or a task for different computer. So computer clustering is main concept related with what? Big data processing. So big data clustering software combines what? Resources from different smaller machine, smaller computer. Actually, resource means storage, processor, RAM, and so on. So to manage big data, we need to use this concept, clustering. So to use this clustering concept, we need what? A clustering software. A clustering software simply is a software which supports combining or combine computer resources from different machines. So the main advantage or benefits of this software are, the first one is resource pooling. That means combining the available computer resources from different personal computers. But all these computers are connected using what? Computer network. And also creating high availability for end user. And also it is very easy for scalability. That means by adding what? Additional machine, additional computer, using this cluster software, we can manage these advantages, okay? So using clusters requires a solution for managing cluster membership. That means coordinating resource sharing, and scheduling actual work on individual node or individual computer. That means different computer may perform different tasks based on schedule. Okay. So all these functionalities performed by this clustering software. We call it cluster membership software. Okay. So there is one mainly known software, or this clustering membership software. We call it AdHops. So cluster membership and resource allocation can be handled by a software like AdHops or YARS, which stands for Yet Another Resource Negotiator. It is simply what? It is a software which manage different computers which are found in different locations, but which are connected each other using computer network. So when we see this AdHops and its ecosystem, AdHops is open source framework or software. Actually, when we see a software, there are different types of software. The first one is called commercial software, commercial, like Microsoft Word, Microsoft Access, even different softwares. So commercial software means it needs to pay for function, or to use, okay? Commercial software. The second one is open source, means it is free. Also, you can customize based on your need. It is freely available on internet, and by adding additional feature, you can customize it. Okay, so Adobe is a free software or open source framework intended to make interaction with big data easier. So to manage or to process big data, we need a special software. We call it Adobe. Okay, Adobe is open source. Open source means it is a free, yes, free, and it is customizable. You can customize easily based on your need. So it is a framework that allows for a distributed processing. Distributed means, or distributed processing means to share load. To share load. That means giving different tasks for different computers. That means sharing load. So this software also supports distributed processing for large data set across clusters. Cluster means interconnecting different computers in order to share resource of a computer using simple programming modules. Okay, modules. So the main purpose of this software or this framework is for distributing processing. Distributing processing means process some part of computer on different some part of task on different computer. So it is by a technical document published by Google. Actually, it is managed by a company called Google. Okay, so the four key characteristics of Adobe software. The first one is economical. It reduces what? Cost requirement, and also reliable. It is very reliable. That means there is no failure. Most of the time, it is available without failure. The third one is scalable. Scalable means we can add additional features or additional data easily. Okay, so you can add horizontally or vertically. For example, adding the data or adding additional feature and so on. And also it is very flexible. For example, it is customizable, and also it is support different types of data. For example, it may work with structured or unstructured data. Okay, so these are main characteristics of Adobe's software or Adobe's data. Okay, Adobe has also an ecosystem that has evolved from four core components. The first one is data management. The second one is data accessing, and the third one is processing, and the last one is storing. Okay, so Adobe's ecosystem means actually consists of these four major concepts or major parts. And also have actually Adobe combines the following components and many others, like Adobe Distributor File System, yet another resource negotiator, and so on. All these softwares or components are part of what? Adobe. So it manage actually or it performs different functionality related with big data. For example, when we see this Adobe ecosystem, there are four major parts: data management, data access, data processing, and data storing. So different part of Adobe may related with different part of Adobe's ecosystem. For example, when we see data management, there is OZ, for example, workflow monitoring, okay, workflow monitoring, and so on. Or when we see this data storage, there is also data management concept integrate with this Adobe, okay? So when we see this Adobe ecosystem, there are 4 major parts: data management part, data accessing part, and data processing, and the last one, data storage. For example, when we see data accessing, for example, we can consider SQL database, relational database management connector, machine learning, and so on, and so on. So all these are concepts related with Adobe ecosystem. So the last one for today's class is actually big data processing life cycle with Adobe. Adobe is a software or open source software which can manage big data or large data. So there are four steps or life cycles in data processing related with big data. The first one is data inputting or feeding data into the system. So the first one or the first step in data processing or big data processing is inserting or feeding a data into a computer system or using this software actually. The second one is processing the data and different the storage, okay, processing. The second one is computing and analyzing data, computing. The last one, visualizing or displaying output. These are the 4 main steps which are included in big data processing, okay. So this one is actually for today's class. If you have any question related with data science.
ልዩነት መፍጠር ዓላማችን ነው። ዓለም አቀፍ ተወዳዳሪ መሆን አለባችሁ። የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ጥራትና ደረጃውን የጠበቀ ስልጠና በመስጠት ብቁ ዜጋ እያፈራን ነው። በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን፣ በበረራ መስተንግዶ፣ በቲኬቲንግና ሪዘርቬሽን፣ በሆቴልና ቱሪዝም ሙያዎች አሰልጥነን ተወዳዳሪ እናደርጎታለን። ኮሌጃችን ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና ከእንግሊዙ ICM ጋር በመተባበር ዓለም አቀፍ ዕውቅና ያለው ስልጠና እየሰጠ ይገኛል። በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን በበረራ መስተንግዶ የምንሰጣቸው ስልጠና ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና አለው። አድራሻ ከጎላጉል ታወር 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።